What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name is Michael Roman, aka All Fires. Now, odds are there's going to be another round of cast announcements for Avengers Doomsday, and if you missed our video from earlier in the week, one industry insider is saying that they're actually lining it up right now at Agbo and Marvel Studios, and then we went on to cover a comprehensive list from 7 months ago, leaked by industry insider Jeff Snyder, including 33 more actors and characters' names. And as we covered that list, although it was extremely light on legacy cameos that made up a majority of the first round of announcements, what it did include was characters that logically we expected to see during this film, or rather it would be harder for them to make the movie without including the character, namely Monica Rambeau, who's in the X-Men timeline we suspect will be seen. But in light of this new list being light on legacy cameo names, it begs the question, is Marvel Studios done with their legacy cameo parade that seems to be pervasive throughout the Multiverse saga, or are they storing it up for Secret Wars? Well, one actress in specific, Famke Janssen, was asked point blank about whether or not she was returning as Jean Grey, and what she said was rather surprising. We're going to break down her quote, try to actually explain some context around this and what it would mean, why Marvel Studios would pass on her character in specific. I think there are some good reasons for it, but of course, add the caveat that she could just be lying. We're breaking it all down, no Jean Grey in Avengers Doomsday, and attempting to explain it. But first, if you could grab the subscribe button, thanks to everyone who's been subbing lately and helped grow the community. We've been growing at an insane rate. You guys are awesome. If you haven't already and you enjoy the content, I would just kindly invite you to do so. Subbing is the #1 thing you can do to support the channel. Plus, it'll automatically enter you for the giveaways. Just be a sub, leave a comment if you want, stick around at the end of the video. We get into all the giveaway stuff again there. Okay, so in an interview from earlier this week, Entertainment Weekly asked Jean Grey actress Famke Janssen point blank whether or not she was returning for the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, Secret Wars, or the end of the Multiverse saga, and she said point blank that Marvel Studios never ever asked her to return as Jean Grey in Avengers Doomsday, and then added, I should be flattered, I suppose, that this character has resonated with people. It's been so long, but it's nice that people are still talking about her. Okay, so listen. I will mention that of all the legacy actors that we've been talking about coming back for their roles as X-Men, noticeably, Jean Grey has been absent from most of the lists. We've seen Halle Berry's Storm and some others, but we really haven't seen Jean Grey. Now, there's one of two options. Number one, if you believe her and she seemed to be sincere, it could be true that Marvel Studios never reached out. And although that would seem weird because they are putting together a classic X-Men timeline, there is not infinite money, infinite time in the script. Maybe they felt like this was one character they could do without. And going one step further and stretching further than Reed Richards while we're doing it, you could say it's maybe because her power set doesn't display as well on screen. Look, the telekinesis thing, it's tough. At least with Wanda, you had glowing red magic when she was interacting with objects. You could sort of understand it. Jean Grey herself overlaps with Professor X in the telepathy, but her telekinesis doesn't really have a signifier on screen. Well, her Phoenix form is obviously a grandiose display, but we wouldn't expect her to be in that, although that was in a recent plot leak we will talk about at the end of this. In the meantime, I'm just trying to find a reason, maybe when matching up the X-Men that they need against the Fantastic Four and the Avengers they'll be going against, there's only one character I can think on the Avengers side who's got mass telekinesis outside of power manipulation to move objects, and that would be Sentry. Maybe they felt going 1-to-1, Jean Grey tipped the scales of being too OP, and we know in the past the Russos have always tried to work with power creep and omit those they thought made for an easy story fix. Maybe they view Jean Grey this way. And of all the things I said in the last minute and a half, her being OP is the one that's most believable, being like, you know what, we can't have Jean Grey in the X-Men versus Avengers, she just may tip the scales completely. Sentry, though, I think goes a long way in untipping them, but they don't have a Professor X and a telepath. Again, they don't have Scarlet Witch. We don't know if Hulk will be a part of the Avengers that are facing off against the X-Men, although you assume that we would be with Wolverine versus Hulk, that we hope happens during this film. All that to be said, of all the things I'm saying, maybe Jean Grey is just too OP. Or maybe she's just lying. And I will say that when Halle Berry was asked about this exact same thing, her answer was eerily similar. Look, these are professional actors who don't really need a lot of media training, and I know it's all fun and games with actors like Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo having fun leaking stuff either on purpose or by accident and then getting turned into a meme. Even real recently, Alan Cummings thought he would just talk about all his scenes with Nightcrawler, and it's definitely been a source of information. It's all fun and games to talk about that, but some of these actors, they really couldn't be bothered. And if Marvel Studios said point blank, just tell them we never contacted you, that's it. That's exactly what she said. And again, talk about media training. If you go 1-to-1, this is almost exactly what Halle Berry said coming back about Storm. So do I believe that we don't get Jean Grey in X-Men? On one hand, I could see it. Because maybe they're like, hey, we're going to recast her. We're going to have a new Jean Grey in the future of the MCU. We don't need a Jean Grey for this fight. But at the same time, they're bringing back all of the legacy X-Men actors. It is really hard to believe that they wouldn't have reached out to her. Still, we haven't heard anything about Anna Paquin Rogue. There are other characters, Iceman, that aren't returning as well. Maybe there was a short list of characters that make sense, again, as they're lining them up against the Avengers, or that make sense narratively, they wanted to include, and she simply didn't make the list. It's plausible, not believable, but plausible, that Jean Grey is just too OP. This does lead to an interesting debate, though, that I don't think we've talked about enough at the channel. Who wins between the Avengers and the X-Men? Now, real talk, I realize no matter what comes out of my mouth in the next minute and a half, that half of you are going to be mad in the comments. There's no way around it, and I will choose a side. But I want to remind you guys, we still don't know who the final lineups on each side will be if it is an X-Men versus Avengers Doomsday scenario. And so it's really hard to call this without knowing who's lined up on either side. But assuming they bring their heaviest hitters to the table, we'll take today's news as true that we don't get a Jean Grey, but of course the Avengers don't have Scarlet Witch. Thinking about some of the most powerful characters on the Avengers side, if they bring them, would be like Sentry, Thor, and Hulk, especially if Hulk is back to Savage Hulk after Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I suppose Captain Marvel, although there's no real reason to believe she's involved just yet. And again, assuming we don't have a Jean Grey on the X-Men side, your heaviest hitters are going to be Professor X, Magneto, perhaps Cyclops, and Storm if she's included. And man, although it breaks my heart because I really want to be Team Avengers here, most of the new Avengers are all just super soldiers. And as far as the other Avengers contingent behind Sam Wilson, outside of Captain Marvel, that's like Wong and Shang-Chi. There's just no way I can take the Avengers into Professor X and Magneto, let alone the rest of the X-Men in tow. I'm sorry, man. Edge on the X-Men here for taking out that lineup. If it was a different lineup of Avengers, maybe they would stand a chance, but it's really hard for me to see that. However, we all know that this is a movie. They're going to fight each other to a stalemate. No deaths incoming between that battle, but who knows? Maybe they will fight to the death. Man, could be a crazy film incoming, and I definitely feel like this movie's going to be a lot darker than I think we're used to, especially real recently, because I think it's the only way to do it. With all these rumors now that Robert Downey Jr. is like going to be a classic monster vibe, just makes me feel like this movie may be super dark, more like the Infinity War vibes than anything else. But you guys let me know all your thoughts down below quickly. Let's get into the giveaway stuff. Just make sure you're a sub and leave a comment to be entered for all giveaways. Make sure you hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. If you like today's video, hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. Find me with the original music under the name All Fires on all platforms. Thanks for checking out the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.